Now that's original.
Hello there and welcome to Original Thursdays. I'm going to try an original song for you today that Pap wrote. Before I tell you more about that, I want to share just real quickly that Granny and I had just a wonderful Sunday. We got to spend some more time with our new good friends, Doyle and Caleb Dykes, and also had the pleasure of meeting Caleb's mom, Doyle's wife, Rita, and just the nicest folks that we have ever met in our entire lives. And just really enjoyed that fellowship with them. And Tipper and the girls got to be there, and Ira and Woody, and my brother Steve and his wife Kim, and just a fantastic time that we had together. And also my cousin David and his wife, and David's a huge Doyle Dykes fan, so he was thrilled and got to come and talk with Doyle and get his picture made and all those kinds of things. Also, so we really appreciate that. So thank you to Doyle and Caleb and Rita for that wonderful meal that we shared and fellowship. Also, after that, I took Granny over to Walmart. She doesn't like to leave town without going by Walmart, so took her over to Walmart, and we were able to meet some of Tipper's fans who watch her on Celebrating Appalachia. We met Miss Maddie Ann Brown and her two sisters, and also one of their grandsons, Michael. I'm not sure if that was Maddie's grandson or one of her sister's grandsons, but just the nicest, sweetest ladies you could ever meet, and they all had to give Granny a big hug, so I just wanted to give them a little shout out and say we really enjoyed running into them. I've met them once before, which was also at Walmart, almost in the exact same spot that we ran into them this time. But ladies, if you're watching, just wanted to say that was really nice of you to come and talk with Granny and give her those hugs. We really enjoyed that. This song is called Be Not Afraid, and it's about, I guess you could say, a really famous moment in the New Testament where Jesus is walking on the water, and Peter calls out to the Lord and says, if it's really you, Lord, let me come walk on the water to you. And of course, Jesus says, come on, and Peter steps down out of the boat, and he walks part of the way on the water, and then he starts to get a little bit afraid and lose faith, and then he begins to sink. And of course, Jesus doesn't let him sink. He lifts him up. And sometimes we're really hard on Peter for having that moment of doubt, but another way of looking at it is Peter did have enough faith to step out in the first place and to walk out there. And I don't think it was really calm seas at the time either, so maybe we're a little too hard on Peter. But there are a lot of sermons, of course, preached on that moment, and there have been quite a few songs written about that moment as well. Ira Louvin wrote a great song called Keep Your Eyes on Jesus that he and Charlie sang together, and it has a really nice recitation in the middle. Had the Jordanaires singing in there with them. It's just a beautiful recording. And the Malpass brothers actually still perform that song quite a bit, Keep Your Eyes on Jesus, and Chris does the recitation. The first time when I heard that song as a kid, of course, I thought it was just a beautiful song. But it was interesting to me when Ira Louvin was given his sort of summation of the moral of that moment or that story. He said something like, much like this disciple, we should keep our eyes on Jesus and not the pleasures of this world. And even as a kid, I thought, well, that's interesting, because I didn't really see that in that moment, anything about pleasures or temptations. I only saw danger, and fear. And I didn't really ever discuss that with Pap, but I thought that was interesting that that's the way Ira phrased that. And now that I'm a lot older and I've read books about Ira Louvin and heard different people talk about him who knew him, we all get different things out of the Bible, and for Ira, maybe those were the biggest dangers in life, were temptations. And anyone maybe who has battled addiction, as he did with alcohol, and it's kind of ironic, but you could be drawn to something and afraid of it at the same time. because you know that it can disrupt your walk with Jesus. So in that sense, it makes sense for Ira personally, and probably for many, many others, I would imagine. And it's ironic that I'm talking about this because just a few days ago, Mom, she asked me to copy some CDs of her singing with Pap for her cousin, Brenda. And I did that, and I came across Pap and Granny singing that song, Keep Your Eyes on Jesus, the Ira Louvin song, together. And Pap stopped playing the guitar, and he gave the recitation, the same recitation that Ira wrote, and gave in the recording. But it was interesting, when he came to that last part, he didn't say pleasures, even though that's what Ira said. Pap said cares, the cares of this world, which might be the more common interpretation or way of thinking about that moment with Peter. Is, there were waves, maybe there was wind, things like that could cause Peter to go under and maybe drown. So a fear of danger, a fear of threats, of things around us. So Pap didn't say pleasures, he said cares, even though it was Ira's recitation. So when Pap wrote this song, which I'm going to guess was probably about 1995, 96, somewhere in there, he really just focused on that aspect of the moment, that there's so many things in life that come along and will come along. It's inevitable. There are going to be plenty of moments in our lives when we encounter things that seem very threatening to us, to our stability, to our security, to our family, to our livelihoods, all those things. And Pap is just in this song encouraging the listener, just like Jesus said, don't be afraid. Jesus is right there. It's going to be all right, ultimately. The reason I think Pap wrote the song around 96, somewhere in there, in 1997, I'm pretty sure it was, could have been a little bit after that, we made a little demo tape for a gentleman, I believe his name was Charles Wolfe. I should have kind of gone back and reviewed all of this before I started the camera, but too late now. Charles Wolfe, I believe, was a professor at the University of Tennessee. I'm pretty sure he wrote the book In Close Harmony, which is a book about the Louvin brothers. And somewhere around that time, he heard Dad and Ray, the Wilson brothers, and he wrote a letter. And he said that the Wilson brothers, because it was the first time he'd heard them, were a find of significance, something like that. Because Charles Wolfe, and hopefully he's still alive today, I need to Google him, see what he's up to these days, but Charles Wolfe was a great lover of close two-part harmony, particularly brother duets. I want to say that I saw him write some commentary on the back of one of the Whitstein brothers albums, and if you like the Louvin brothers and you like the Wilson brothers, if you like the way Pap and I sang together, then you will like the Whitstein brothers if you've never heard them before. Great brother duet, I believe, from Louisiana. And because of that letter, we wound up making some sort of demo tape or something like that we sent to Charles Wolfe, and I think he maybe sent it to Rounder Records. It could have been Rebel Records. It was one of those two, and they were very nice, but they passed. They were not interested in recording Dad and his brother Ray. And I can kind of understand it, because they had so many acts already. Daddy and Ray sang only gospel, so that kind of already cuts your market down some. And honestly, we weren't in that great of form musically right about that particular time. But I've always liked this song. I've never thought it was an easy song to do. I'm going to give it my best shot. Unlike most of Pap's songs, this song has only one verse. So let me know down in the comments, do you think I should try to make up a second verse to this song, or should I just leave it the way Pap wrote it with a verse and a chorus? I'm going to try to do it as close to how they did it as I can. They recorded it on an album, I believe, called Today If You Will Hear His Voice, which was another song that Pap wrote. It was either on that album or on the Whispering Hope album. It was one of those two. I'm going to sing it a little bit lower than they did. They sang in F. I'm going to try it here in E. We'll give it a shot, and if I mess up, I can just stop the recorder and try again. Here we go. Be not afraid, though everything is wrong. Often hearts are troubled when the night is long, when shadows are falling and crossings must be made. Let not your heart be troubled. Be not afraid. The night is dark and stormy. The ship is tossed with waves. The wind it blows contrary. Men are sore afraid until they see the Master. He calms the angry waves and says to all, be cheerful, be not afraid, be not afraid, though everything is wrong. Often hearts are troubled when the night is long, when shadows are falling and crossings must be made. Let not your heart be troubled. Be not afraid. Can't believe I made it through it without messing up. Too bad. One other thing that I thought I would mention, and you can let me know your thoughts in the comments. In that verse, I sang it as Pap wrote it, which is, men are sore, S-O-R-E, sore afraid. And that's the way the King James Bible says it. And I think that word appears maybe more than once in the Bible with regard to fear. And I think that means just a very special kind of fear. Sore afraid to the point that it's, affecting you physically. Just really stressed out is being sore afraid. Now, when Pap and Ray sang the song, Ray led the verses and Ray changed it to so afraid. Men are so afraid. And Pap and I didn't argue about it. Ray said, I don't think most people are going to know what we're saying there. Let's just say so afraid. And so that's the way we recorded it. And to Ray's point, I even thought, some people might think you have like an odd dialect or something. Sometimes British folks will put an R on the end of a word that it's not actually there. It doesn't belong there, like the word idea. And so I kind of went along like, yeah, maybe it does make more sense to say so afraid. But here I sang it as Pap originally wrote it, which is more directly based on the King James, which says that they were sore afraid. So let me know in your comments if I sing this song out anywhere, or if down the road anytime I or someone else recorded it, should we sing sore afraid or so afraid? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this original song. And remember that this Saturday there'll be another train song with Mr. Doyle Dykes. And this one will, in a sense, be the last one. It'll be the way of kind of wrapping up the series. We were fortunate enough to catch some other footage of Doyle playing some of his original songs. So we'll also share some of that either on the last Saturday of November, because there's one more Saturday in this month. Or I might even share them here on Original Thursdays, because they are original songs that Doyle composed. And you'll get to hear a little bit also about how and why he composed them. But thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.
In the 14th chapter of St. Matthew, when the disciples were in a ship in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. In the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they cried out for fear, saying, It is a spirit. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, and said, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Then Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked upon the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the winds boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? Are we not many times just like this disciple? If we want to walk for Jesus, we must keep our eyes upon him and not the cares of this world.